I did not make my fortune, by and large, on the cutting edge of technology. My first investment with my pitiful savings of a venturesome sort, I invested in a company right in Pasadena, and it was called William Miller Instruments. And I damn near lost all my money. It was hell on earth. We just barely squeaked out with a substantial outcome. And what did us in is that the oscillograph that we'd invented and we were so proud of, and we thought it was going to knock the world flat. Somebody invented magnetic tape without telling me. And by the time we got that oscillograph ready to go to market, we sold three total in the whole world, whole country. So this technology is a killer as well as an opportunity. And my first experience, it damn near killed me.
And so, but that's sort of the other part, right? Over the 75 years that you've been involved in investing.
What that did for a long time was keep me out of venture capital on the edge of technology.
But even
I tried to avoid it.
But even so, in the companies that you deal with, some of them are market leaders at one point in time, and as you just suggested, some technological change or change in preferences will lead those companies to be with less of a market than they used to have for their products. And so how does one think about this over the long term? Because it's
over the
an
long
interesting
term, the companies of America behave more like biology than they do anything else. In biology, all the individuals die, and so do all the species. It's just a question of time. And that's pretty well what happens in the economy too. All the things that were really great when I were young have receded enormously, and new things have come up, and some of them started to die. And that is what the long-term investment climate is. And it does make it very interesting. Look at what's died. All the department stores, all the newspapers, U.S. Steel, John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil, the pale shadow of his former self. You know, it's just like biology. So they have their little hour, they have their little time, and then they get clobbered.
And so how does one, as sort of a witness, or sort of in a certain way, one lives longer than the life of some of these companies, sort of deal with change, right? So you could think about an investment portfolio that you created at a point in time will only have validity for a certain amount of time. And so how does one learn to deal with change? It's a question that I always ask my students, and I would just, how does somebody who has to take the resources of very large numbers of people deal with change? Any thoughts on that matter?
Well, some people try to get on the cutting edge of change, so they're destroying other people instead of being destroyed themselves. And those are the Googles and the Apples and so forth. Other people like me do some of that, joining things like Apple, and in some ways we just try and avoid big change that we think is likely to hurt us. And so Berkshire, for instance, owns the Burlington Northern Railroad. You can hardly think of a more old-fashioned business than a railroad business. But who in hell's ever going to create another trunk railroad? So it's a very good asset for us. And we made that success not by conquering change, but by avoiding it. Now, Burlington Northern itself has been quite clever at adapting technology to their railroad. Imagine the good luck of being able to take an existing railroad and double deck all the trains and raise the heights of the tunnels a little and so forth. And all of a sudden you got twice the capacity at very little incremental cost, which is what that railroad has done.
So that is
everybody uses new technology, but it really helps to have a position that almost can't be taken away by technology. How else are you going to carry goods from the port of Los Angeles to Chicago except on our railroad?